I always thought the worst sound in the world was the 4:30 a.m. alarm I set for overtime shifts at the warehouse. Turns out it's actually the soft click of my own front door unlocking, followed by my wife stepping inside with a smirk that already tells me my life is about to implode. Jessica didn't even shut the door fully. She let it swing half open behind her like she owned the world, and the world just thrilled her too much to bother with trivial things like closing doors. Her heels clicked across the hardwood like gunshots. 3 steps. 4. 5. Then she tossed a thick envelope onto the coffee table, where it landed with a dull smack. There, she said. Sign those. I blinked awake on the couch, my neck stiff, my back screaming from another night of restless half-sleep. I'd been dozing off in front of the TV again, a stack of overtime paperwork next to me, a half-eaten microwaved burrito congealing on a plate. Jess, what is this? My voice cracked. She crossed her arms and cocked her head, like she was bored already. Divorce papers, Mike. Don't make this dramatic. You had to know this was coming. No. No, I didn't. Or maybe I did, but I refused to believe it. For months, I'd felt her slipping away, or maybe running away was more accurate. But I kept telling myself, if I just work harder, bring home more, show her I'm trying, maybe she'll stay. Maybe she'll look at me the way she used to. Jessica let out a sigh, long and theatrical. Please don't do the confused puppy thing. The what? That wounded expression. It's pathetic. She flicked her fingers toward the envelope. Sign? The sooner we do this, the better. I forced myself to sit up. Can we talk about this first? Talk? She let out a sharp laugh. Mike, we've been talking for years, and I'm tired of repeating myself. I swallowed hard. I'm working so much because I'm trying to give us a better... Oh my God. She pinched the bridge of her nose. Do you hear yourself? You work 12-hour shifts in a warehouse. You manage truck schedules. It's not noble, Mike. It's depressing. The words hit harder than I expected. I'm doing my best, I whispered. Well, your best isn't enough. She leaned forward, her voice dropping into something cold and detached. I'm 38. I'm not spending the rest of my life living like a middle-class ghost while you pretend overtime will fix everything. My chest tightened painfully. She wasn't done. And honestly, she continued, examining her nails casually, you and I both know you'll never give me the lifestyle I want. The lifestyle I deserve. Jessica? No, I'm done. She pointed a perfectly manicured finger directly at me. I want out, and I want it clean. I just stared at her. My ears were ringing. My mouth was dry. She might as well have stabbed me. At least a knife would have been honest. Is there someone else? I finally managed. Jessica's lips curled into a smile. Not a sweet one, a smug one. There doesn't have to be. Which meant there absolutely was. Who? She sat on the edge of the coffee table, leaning forward until her perfume overwhelmed the stale air in the room. His name is Gavin. The name hit like a slap. Gavin. Her business friend. The one with the Porsche. The one she insisted was just helping her with networking opportunities. We fit better, she said simply. He actually has ambition. Drive. He understands my goals. He doesn't settle for scraps. I don't settle, I choked out. I work myself to the bone for you. For me? She barked out a laugh. Since when do I want discount jewelry and dinners at chain restaurants? Do you know how humiliating it is to watch my friends get real gifts? Real vacations? Real men? Something inside me broke. Split clean down the center. I stood up. So all the overtime, all the saving, all the trying, meant nothing? Mike. She folded her hands. Love doesn't pay for beachfront condos. Duh, I thought we loved each other. She tilted her head. Don't be naive. I loved the idea that you might become someone who could keep up. But you stalled, and I outgrew you. Outgrew. Like I was a pair of shoes she'd worn until something shinier came along. I took a shaky breath. Why now? Why today? She smiled. Well, Gavin doesn't want to move forward until I'm legally free of you. He's careful about his assets." She lifted the envelope again and let it fall with a thud. "This is your chance to show some maturity and sign." "Maturity," I repeated. "You're kicking me out of my own house." "This house," she said coolly, "was purchased with my credit, my inheritance, and my down payment. Your name is on the title, sure, but you can't afford to keep the mortgage, and we both know it. I'm offering you a clean exit. Be grateful." Grateful. I couldn't breathe. "And you need to leave today," she continued. "I have movers coming tomorrow. I don't think it's healthy for you to be around during this transition." "Healthy for me?" I whispered. "Well, it's stressful for you, obviously, and Gavin will be spending a lot more time here now, so yeah." She walked to the closet, grabbed my duffel bag, the one I used for gym clothes, and tossed it onto the couch. "Pack the essentials. I've already boxed some of your things." "Some? Not all." "What did you throw away?" I asked, my voice trembling. Her expression was bored. "Old clothes, junk, sentimental clutter." My chest tightened. "My hoodies?" "Mike," she said with a sigh, "you're 41 years old. Hoodies are not a personality." She didn't understand. That grey hoodie had been with me since college. Through job changes, hospital visits with my dad, our birthdays, our road trips. It was stupid, yes, but it was mine. I walked past her into the bedroom. 4 cardboard boxes sat by the door, all labelled Mike in big black letters. Half-hearted, crooked. I didn't open them. I didn't want to see what she decided was worth keeping. I stuffed clothes into the duffel bag with numb hands. A few toiletries, my phone charger, the basics, the bare minimum of a man shoved out of his own life. Jessica followed me to the door. "Oh, and don't contact me unless it's through my lawyer. We want this smooth, clear, and fast." "We." She'd already replaced me with "we." As I walked out, still half-dressed, half alive, she gave one final parting shot. "Maybe once this is over, you'll find someone appropriate for your income bracket." The door closed behind me. The world felt too bright. The pavement too loud beneath my shoes. I got in my 11-year-old Honda Civic, turned the key, and drove without direction. 30 minutes later, I checked into a cheap motel with buzzing fluorescent lights and a bedspread older than I was. I dropped my bag on the floor, sat at the edge of the sagging mattress, and stared at the peeling wallpaper. I had nothing. No home, no wife, no dignity. My future was a void. Then I remembered the gas station. The stop I'd made on the way home, exhausted and desperate, and needing something, anything to feel like a win. I pulled the crumpled lottery ticket from my pocket. It looked worthless. Just a few numbers printed on cheap paper. I let out a broken laugh and whispered into the empty room, "Wouldn't that be something?" I set it on the nightstand, next to the buzzing lamp. And that was the moment right there, in that pathetic little motel room, when rock bottom and fate finally collided. The motel room smelled faintly of bleach and old cigarettes. The kind of place where time didn't move forward so much as it sagged, like the wallpaper peeling at the edges. I sat there on the bed for a long time, just staring at that lottery ticket like it was mocking me. A stupid impulse purchase. A scrap of hope I bought with spare change. Eventually, I sighed, pulled up the state lottery website on my phone, and entered the date. "Winning numbers posted," the screen said. I wasn't expecting anything, not even a consolation prize. I just needed a distraction from the implosion of my life. I read the first number. My heart tripped. I looked again. 12. The first number on my ticket. Coincidence. I read the second number. 27. My throat tightened. A little jolt of electricity flickered up my spine. No, no way. I swallowed hard and read the third. 33. My chest tightened. My palms began to sweat. The air felt suddenly too thin. I blinked rapidly, leaning forward. Okay, I whispered. "Probably just a few matching numbers. Don't freak out." Fourth number. 41. A strangled sound escaped me. I didn't even check the fifth before standing up so fast the mattress springs groaned. I started pacing the room in heavy, uneven footsteps, trying to breathe, trying not to collapse. No, I muttered. No, this doesn't happen. Not to people like me. My hands shook as I forced myself to read the fifth number. 44. My knees buckled. I had to grab the edge of the dresser to stay upright. 5 numbers? 5. That alone meant something big. Thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. Enough to start over. Enough to... I squeezed my eyes shut. Mike, keep it together, I whispered. You haven't checked the Powerball number. My pulse was beating so hard it felt like a drum in my skull. I opened my eyes. I read the final number. Powerball. 19. I looked down at my ticket. The cheap ink smudged slightly from how tightly I'd been holding it. 19. I stared. Then again. And again. And then the room tilted. My ears started ringing, high and sharp like feedback from a speaker. My chest heaved. I couldn't breathe properly. My hands went numb. I stumbled back, collapsing onto the bed, the air punching out of my lungs in a violent rush. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh. Oh no. Oh hell. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, gripping my skull. A sound came out of me, half laugh, half sob, half panicked animal noise. I won. I actually won. $50 million. The jackpot had rolled over for weeks. I remembered the clerk saying something about it, standing there under those buzzing gas station lights while I bought a ticket out of sheer desperation. 50 million. My vision blurred. My heart wouldn't slow down. I felt like I might pass out. Vomit. Scream. All at once. Finally, after several minutes of shaking breaths, I pulled myself together enough to grab my phone. My first instinct, God help me, was to call Jessica. Maybe we could fix everything. Maybe this was the moment, the miracle, the thing that would bring her back, the thing that would make her love me again. I actually hovered my thumb over her name. That's how deep the damage went. That's how thoroughly she'd trained me to believe I had to earn her affection. But something made me pause. The notification banner across my lock screen. A photo. Her photo. Posted just minutes earlier. It was Jessica in a dimly lit restaurant, wearing her favorite black dress, the one I bought on clearance, and she said was passable for cheap fabric. She was laughing, head back, wine glass raised, and Gavin's arm was around her, his face close to her neck, a caption written in her elegant handwriting style font, "Freedom feels good. New beginnings." The comments from her friends were a dagger after dagger. "Finally, girl. You deserve luxury, not dead weight. So proud of you for leveling up. He's such an upgrade." My thumb trembled. My hand fell away from the screen. Everything inside me went still. My breathing steadied. My pulse slowed. And then something cold, sharp, and new formed inside my chest. Not rage, not heartbreak, clarity. Jessica never loved me. Not even in the way flawed people love imperfectly. No, she loved the idea of being taken care of, adored, worshipped. She loved being the center of attention. She loved status. I was never a person to her, just a stepping stone. And now she'd stepped on me as hard as she could without knowing I'd turned into bedrock beneath her foot. I put the phone down calmly. The ticket was still in my other hand. I stared at it. Not with shock now, but with something else. Resolve. I didn't call Jessica. I didn't text. I didn't celebrate. Instead, I got in my car with legs that still felt like jelly and drove straight to a small law office I remembered passing a dozen times on my route to work. A place with a faded wooden sign and dusty windows. The kind of office run by a lawyer who didn't bother with commercials or billboards or obnoxious jingles. Inside, everything was quiet. Wood-paneled. Old carpet. It smelled faintly of cedar. A man in his 60s with a silver beard and worn tweed jacket looked up from behind the desk. "Can I help you?" he asked gently. I closed the door behind me, sat down across from him, and placed the lottery ticket on his paperwork. His eyebrows rose slowly. Son, do you know what this means? I nodded. I just need to know one thing, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. What do I do next to protect it? He studied me for a long moment. You married? He finally asked. Currently getting divorced. He nodded grimly. Then the first piece of advice is the most important. Don't mention this ticket to anyone. Not your wife, not her lawyer, not your friends, no one. I swallowed. Okay. Second, he took out a notepad. You said you're signing divorce papers? Tomorrow, I said. Her lawyers want it done fast. Good. He leaned back in his chair. Speed is our friend. There's something called the asset separation date. It's critical. Make sure whatever you sign says the financial separation is effective immediately. I frowned. Why? Because any assets acquired after that date are solely yours. Not marital property, not joint winnings, yours. My breath caught. Even something like this, I asked quietly, tapping the ticket. He smiled faintly. Especially something like that. I exhaled slowly. He slid the ticket back toward me. You play this right, and your wife won't get a penny. The cold clarity inside me crystallized into something unshakable. Jessica wanted out? Perfect. She wanted clean separation? Even better. She wanted me to walk away with nothing? Oh, she'd get exactly what she asked for, and absolutely nothing more. Mr. Sterling's office looked exactly like the kind of place where bad news wore expensive cologne. Floor-to-ceiling windows, glossy black furniture, a wall of legal books nobody had opened since Bush was president, and abstract art that probably cost more than my Civic. I stood there holding my cheap duffel bag like a lost airport traveler. Jessica was already seated at the conference table, legs crossed, wearing a white blazer and heels that could have stabbed through concrete. Her smile was razor-thin polished, but cruel. And next to her, lounging back with a self-satisfied smirk, was Gavin. Like he belonged there. Like I was the intruder. He shouldn't have been in the room. Everyone knew it. Even Mr. Sterling hesitated before masking his irritation. Just to be clear, he said, clearing his throat, these negotiations are between the divorcing parties. Boyfriends should remain observers. Gavin grinned wider. Don't worry, Sterling. I'm here purely for moral support. Moral support? I muttered. What morals? Jessica shot me a warning glare. Mike, don't start. Right, don't start. In other words, play the role of the defeated man she expected me to be. Fine. I sat down slowly, shoulders slumped, eyes down, doing everything I could to look like the version of me she believed she'd already buried. Mr. Sterling tapped his pen on a stack of papers. Let's get this moving. Jessica wants an expedited dissolution. Of course she did. Now, he said, adjusting his gold watch, my client's priority is ensuring that this separation is, how did you put it? He looked at Jessica. Clean, she answered. I don't want any future entanglements. Right. Sterling slid the top document toward me. So, we've drafted a comprehensive asset separation agreement. This will lock in the financial separation as of the moment you sign. Moments like that burn into memory little flickers of destiny dressed up as coincidence. The moment I sign, I repeated, playing dumb. Correct, Sterling said. Jessica is concerned about potential claims you might make if, for example, she acquires new assets, receives gifts, or if her boyfriend, he coughed lightly, enters into significant business deals. Gavin smirked. I'm doing pretty well, Mike. Hate for you to think you're entitled to any of it. I clenched my fist under the table. Jessica touched Gavin's arm lightly, smiling at him before returning to me with cold detachment. This isn't personal. It's just smart. I'm protecting what's mine. Smart. Oh, she had no idea how smart she was about to make me look. Mr. Sterling continued, the agreement waives all rights. Both parties may have to any assets, income, or windfalls discovered or acquired by the other party immediately upon signing this document, regardless of when the formal divorce is finalized. I kept my face blank, even as adrenaline surged through my veins. This was it. This was the clause my lawyer had told me to pray for. The clause I knew Sterling would push, because Jessica was terrified I'd try to latch onto Gavin's supposed wealth. A legal noose she was tying around her own neck. Jessica leaned forward, eyes gleaming. This guarantees that once you sign, whatever happens next in my life is none of your business. No claims, no fights. Gavin couldn't resist chiming in. And no more guilt trips from you about what you provided. You didn't provide luxury, Mike. You provided endurance. His laugh grated on my nerves. I swallowed hard, keeping my voice shaky. So, if I sign this, I'm walking away with nothing? Jessica nodded, unblinking. Yes. And you're walking away with everything? That's how divorces work when one partner contributed more, she said lightly. It's fair. Fair. God, if I could bottle the irony in that room, I'd be a billionaire twice over. Sterling pushed the document closer. All you need to do is sign on the last page. We'll file it same day. I let my eyes drift to the papers, pretending to read, even though I knew exactly what that clause said. My lawyer had helped me memorize the implications, word for word. I inhaled shakily. This is a lot. Jessica sighed loudly. Mike, don't drag this out. You said yesterday you weren't going to make this ugly. I'm just nervous, I whispered. You should be, Gavin said under his breath. Jessica shot him a look, but not a disapproving one. More like a play nice, but I agree kind of look. Sterling folded his hands. I assure you, this is a standard separation agreement. It protects both of you equally. Equally? Please. I looked up at Jessica. She was smiling, wide, confident, victorious. Why are you smiling? I asked quietly. Because, she said, crossing her arms, for the first time in years, I feel like I'm finally making a smart decision. I let out a shaky breath, leaning back. I don't want us to hate each other. Her expression didn't change. Then sign. I gently picked up the pen. My hand shook, genuinely at first, but then deliberately, making me look like a man trembling with loss instead of anticipation. Just to be sure, I said, glancing at Sterling. Once I sign this, we're financially separate? Immediately, he confirmed. Anything she gains after this date is hers alone. Anything you gain is yours alone. Gavin snorted. I doubt he'll gain anything. Jessica laughed softly, almost sympathetically. Mike, you've never been a risk taker. Nothing's going to change for you. She said it like it was fact, like it was prophecy. I lowered my eyes to hide the spark in them. Then, with a long exhale, I signed my name. The sound of the pen scraping across the paper felt like thunder in my veins. Jessica didn't flinch. She was too busy smiling triumphantly. Gavin leaned back and stretched, satisfied. Well, that's that. Sterling gathered the papers. I'll have these notarized immediately. Jessica stood, smoothing her blazer. This is best for both of us, Mike. Don't be bitter. I looked up at her, letting my voice crack just a little. I hope you're happy. Oh, she said, slipping her hand into Gavin's. I will be. She walked out with him, her heels clicking victoriously across the floor. The door shut behind them, and I exhaled, long and slow. Then a tiny smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. She thought she'd just taken everything, but she'd actually signed away the only thing she'd ever truly wanted, money. And I had 50 million reasons to let her walk away thinking she'd won. When I stepped out of Mr. Sterling's office, the sun felt different, warmer, sharper, like the world had shifted half an inch to the right. I took one long breath, filling my lungs with air that didn't feel borrowed anymore. I checked the time. 10:42 a.m. My lottery press conference was scheduled for 2 days from now. 48 hours. The longest and most satisfying limbo of my life. I walked to my car, the same dented silver Honda Jessica used to call a commuter's coffin, and sat inside for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. My hands were still tingling from signing the papers. I'd walked into that room as the man she expected me to be. I'd walk out of this week as someone else, entirely. But first, I had to survive the next 48 hours without letting anything slip. The house no longer mine. That afternoon, I drove back home to pack my things. The house Jessica insisted was hers, even though I paid the majority of the down payment, even though my name was on the mortgage. Not that it mattered now. She was in full victory mode when I arrived, hair freshly done, wearing leggings and a tank top, humming some pop song while tapping through messages on her phone, probably telling her friends how smoothly the signing went. She barely looked at me. "You're back early." "Just grabbing my stuff." She gestured vaguely toward the stairs. "Try not to drag dirt everywhere." I had no words for her anymore. The hurt had evaporated. I felt strangely light, detached, like I was watching everything from behind glass. I went upstairs and started collecting the few belongings she hadn't gradually thrown out, donated, or accidentally ruined. Clothes, a few books, my dad's old watch, a childhood photo album she always said made the house look cluttered. When I came down the hallway toward what used to be our shared closet, she was blocking the doorframe, holding something in her hand. My old grey hoodie, the one I wore on our first date, the one she used to steal and curl up in. Except now she held it between two fingers like it was contaminated. "This," she said, "is not coming with you." Before I could react, she tossed it into a trash bag at her feet. A visceral heat shot up my spine. Not because of the hoodie itself, but because of the symbolism, the contempt, the need to erase me. I swallowed the anger. Let her erase me. It would make what came next so much sweeter. She checked her nails. "I booked a cleaning service for tomorrow. They'll take care of anything you leave behind." Translation: everything with any meaning. I nodded once. "You won't have to worry about me." She blinked, almost suspicious. Good. If she noticed the calm in my voice, she didn't comment on it. She walked away, answering a call from Gavin and laughing softly. One of those giggles she used to save only for me. I finished packing in silence. When I rolled my duffel bag downstairs, she was leaning against the counter drinking sparkling water. "You're keeping the car, right? Gavin said I shouldn't let you take anything nicer." I glanced at her. "The Civic is mine." "Perfect. Very fitting for you." She smirked. I didn't respond. Her cruelty didn't sting anymore. It only confirmed I was escaping a cage I didn't realize I'd lived in. I walked out without saying goodbye. Validation day. My next stop was the State Lottery Commission. The building was nondescript tan brick, fluorescent lights, a security guard who looked half asleep. I stepped inside with my ticket in my pocket, feeling like I had a nuclear device taped to my chest. A receptionist guided me into a small room with beige walls, where a lottery official in a navy blazer introduced himself as Mr. Hamlin. "Do you have the ticket with you, sir?" My throat tightened. "Right here." He took it gently, like it was a fragile artifact, and fed it into a machine. A soft beep echoed. He leaned in to read the output. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he turned to me with an expression somewhere between shock and reverence. "Congratulations, Mr. Daly." He extended his hand. "You have won $50 million. My knees almost buckled again. Everything after that blurred into motions. Paperwork, signature sheets, tax briefings, instructions for the press conference, security protocols, identity confirmation. When they asked if I wanted to claim the prize publicly, I hesitated. But my lawyer had been very clear. Claiming publicly meant airtight legitimacy. No one, not even Jessica, could later claim fraud or concealment. "Public," I said firmly. Mr. Hamlin nodded. "We'll see you in 48 hours. Reconstruction. After leaving the commission, I did something I hadn't done in years. I walked into a high-end barbershop. Not Supercuts. Not the strip mall place Jessica pushed me toward to save money. A place with marble counters, soft jazz, and whiskey offered to waiting clients. When the barber finished with me, I looked different. Sharper, younger. Like I'd shed a skin. Then I went to a department store and bought a navy Armani suit. Not flashy, just well-tailored, understated, elegant. The kind of suit a man in control of his life wears. When I tried it on, I barely recognized the reflection looking back. Not defeated, not desperate, not broken. A man reborn. On my way out, I got a call. Jessica. I let it ring out. She texted seconds later. Need you to pick up the last of your bathroom stuff. I'm throwing it out tomorrow. I stared at the screen, a faint smile tugging at my mouth. She had no idea that while she was busy burning the bridge between us, I was paving a golden highway. Silence before the storm. That night, I returned to the motel. Same stained curtains, same buzzing light. But I felt completely different inside it. She thought she'd reduced my world to a room that cost $39.99 a night. What she didn't know was that I had a check coming worth $50 million and a legal agreement she had insisted on that stripped her of any right to it. I sat on the bed, suit hanging on the door. The future spread out before me like a map. All I had to do now was wait. 48 hours. Jessica would spend that time celebrating her freedom. I would spend it preparing to walk into the rest of my life. And when our worlds collided again, on live television, hers would shatter so completely she'd never recover. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, staring at the pale ceiling, listening to the slow tick-tick-tick of the old clock in the hallway, Grandma's clock. The same one she used to wind every Sunday morning after church. Somehow, the quiet rhythm felt like her presence again. Steady, unshakable, patient. And yet, everything inside me felt anything but steady. By morning, a cold determination settled in. I wasn't avoiding this anymore. I wasn't hiding from Ben. And I definitely wasn't letting him rewrite history to suit his ego. I walked into Dad's workshop just after sunrise. The place still smelled like sawdust, varnish, and the faint hint of motor oil familiar, comforting. Dad was sanding the edge of a cabinet door, pretending he didn't see the storm brewing in my eyes. He looked up anyway. Rough night? I nodded. Your brother was asking about you, he added quietly. Of course he was, I muttered. He's afraid I'm going to expose him. Dad lowered the sanding block. Are you? I took a breath. Yes. Dad didn't argue, didn't warn me, didn't tell me to stay out of family business. He just gave me the smallest nod of approval, like he'd been waiting for this moment longer than I realized. Your grandma trusted you, he said. Don't forget that. I swallowed hard. I won't. Ben came to the house around 10. He didn't knock. He just marched in with that entitled stride, muttering under his breath, already irritated. There you are. He pointed at me like I was a misbehaving pet. You've got some nerve. You think you can just... No, I cut in, stepping forward. You don't get to raise your voice at me in our grandparents' home. He laughed, harsh and dismissive. Grandma's home? Don't act like she chose you over. She did. My voice was low and steady. For a reason you've been hiding. Ben froze, because he knew exactly what I meant. I pulled the envelope from my bag. Grandma's handwriting on the front. The one he told me was just sentimental papers. The one he never wanted me to look through. His face drained. Where did you get that? Where you should have left it in her drawer, not in the trash can behind your apartment. Dad stiffened behind me. You threw out your grandmother's letters? Ben snapped. It wasn't like that. You don't understand. Oh, I do. My voice trembled, but I didn't stop. I understand that she found out what you did. The loan you took in her name, the signatures you forged, the debt collectors she dealt with alone so Dad wouldn't find out. Dad exhaled sharply, like he'd been punched. Ben's jaw clenched. His eyes darted around, panicking for an angle, a defense, a lie, anything. You don't know the full story, he insisted. I was young. I made mistakes. She forgave me. No, I said softly. She didn't. Silence. Even the old house seemed to stop breathing. I opened the letter, the one written 3 months before Grandma passed. Ben has a good heart, but his judgment scares me. He'll justify anything if he wants it badly enough. I can't leave the house in his hands. Not after what happened. Dad sat down heavily, rubbing his forehead. Ben swallowed, the bravado cracking. I didn't know she wrote that. You didn't want to know. He stepped toward me, desperate now. You can't ruin me with this. This is family. You'd destroy everything. I'm not destroying anything, I said. You already did. I'm just stopping you from taking more. His face twisted with shame and anger, and something I couldn't name. Please, he whispered, don't tell anyone else. For the first time in a long time, I saw the boy he used to be, the one who got lost somewhere along the way. But the damage was done, and Grandma's last wish wasn't negotiable. I'm not going public, I said quietly. But the house stays with me. The inheritance stays with me. And you stay out of this. Ben's shoulders slumped. He didn't agree, he simply gave up. And somehow, that hurt more than I expected. He walked out without another word. Dad put a hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing. Maybe I did. But as I watched my brother drive away, shrinking down the long gravel road, all I felt was a strange, aching mix of relief and loss. Grandma had been right. Even in her absence, she was still protecting the family, just not in the way Ben wanted. For the next 2 days, the house was unbearably quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet Grandma loved, the kind with birds chirping outside and soft hums from the old refrigerator. This was a heavy quiet, a grieving quiet, a quiet that settled into the corners and pressed against my chest. Ben didn't call. He didn't text. He didn't come back. Dad tried to act normal fixing things that didn't need fixing, cleaning things that didn't need cleaning. But sometimes I caught him staring out the window toward the road, like he expected Ben to pull up and pretend none of this ever happened. But he didn't. And maybe that was necessary. On the third afternoon, I finally gathered the courage to return to Grandma's room. The sunlight spilled across her neatly made bed, illuminating the dust motes drifting in the warm air. Her scent lavender, dried roses, old books still lingered. I sat on the quilt she'd sewn years ago and opened the last unopened envelope, the one she'd labeled, "For when you feel lost." My hands trembled as I slid out the letter. Her handwriting, familiar and elegant, hit me like a wave. I started reading. My sweet girl, if you're reading this, then something has shaken you. Maybe it's family, maybe it's life, maybe it's yourself. But I want you to remember what I saw long before you ever did. You have a way of noticing the truth other people avoid. You see past excuses, past appearances, past fear. That gift will not make your life easier, but it will make your life honest. Do not let anyone, especially those you love, convince you that protecting the truth is the same as hurting them. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to let a wound grow deeper. If Ben is the reason you feel lost, know this: I loved him. But love does not mean blindness. His choices scared me, and I prayed every day he would find his footing again. I hope he does. But I could not risk our home becoming another one of his mistakes. That is why the house is yours. Not as a burden, as an anchor. A reminder of who you are, steady, brave, and rooted in what is right. Use the house well. Fill it with people who appreciate it. Fill it with life. And when the world feels heavy, come sit on the porch swing and breathe. It will hold you, just like I wish I still could. With all my love, Grandma. I didn't even realize I was crying until the ink blurred through the tears. For the first time since she passed, I let myself feel everything. The grief, the relief, the sorrow of losing the version of Ben I'd once believed in, and the quiet, powerful certainty that Grandma had understood all of it. As I folded the letter back into the envelope, footsteps creaked softly behind me. Dad stood in the doorway, leaning against the frame. She always did know exactly what to say. I nodded, wiping my cheeks. She really did. He walked over and sat beside me, looking around the room with a wistful expression. "This house is yours now," he said gently, "but that doesn't mean you're alone in it." "I know," I whispered, and for the first time, I truly did. That evening, I stepped onto the porch, the one Grandma mentioned. The sunset painted the sky in strokes of apricot and rose. The air carried the scent of warm grass and distant pine. I sat in the swing, letting it sway gently under my weight. The world felt both fragile and brand new. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the smallest envelope one that had slipped behind the dresser earlier. Inside was a single photo. Me and Ben when we were little, sitting on this very swing, our legs kicking wildly, our smiles wide and pure. On the back, Grandma had written, "One day you'll both remember who you are. One day you'll find your way back to each other." I traced the letters with my thumb. Maybe she was right. Maybe healing didn't look like apologies or perfect closure. Maybe it looked like space, time, truth. Maybe it looked like this very moment. Quiet, steady, hopeful. I leaned back as the swing creaked softly, the first stars appearing above the darkening trees. For the first time in months, I breathed without feeling the weight of loss pressing down on me. Grandma didn't just leave me a house. She left me a compass, a home, a truth, a future I finally felt ready to claim. And as the night settled around me, warm and familiar, I whispered into the darkness, "Thank you."